how did you get started? Did you have a lab already before?
No, I had been a scientist before, and I've worked in pharmaceuticals for a couple of years, and I had other laboratory experience before. What really got me started was a friend of mine who's a veteran who convinced me that this is something that is worth looking at, worth pursuing, and the more I got into it, the more I decided, hey, I can build a laboratory. I should build a laboratory that will help people. So here we are.
Right. And so it's a friend in need, and that.
Yeah, a former colleague actually. So.
Right. And he had post-traumatic stress, or
He had actually a few conditions that marijuana treated well. He had rheumatoid arthritis, and he had PTSD.
So the arthritis and the emotional impact, and it helped both of those.
Yeah.
And
so he said.
Right.
I'm not a doctor.
No. So you started testing.
Yep.
Because you wanted to find out, and he probably wanted to find out if it was just.
Well, it's something that the community needed at the time, and it's something that I could do. And the more I looked at it, the more I thought this is something I want to do, and I built it.
So you built this while the legalization process was in.
It had been legalized, and they did require testing in this state. And I only built the laboratory after laboratories were written into the law that allowed me to build it. I wouldn't have built this unless it was in the law.
So they passed the law requiring labs to test.
Yes.
And what do they require the testing for?
The testing is required for efficacy and safety. By efficacy, I mean how much of each active ingredient is in your sample. So THC, CBD, CBN, THCA, CBDA, stuff like that. And safety is for contaminants. So there could be all sorts of contaminants. And this state requires testing for pesticides, mold, mildew, heavy metals, and plant growth regulators. Some of these can be dangerous to an immune-compromised patient base. So testing here is especially important.
So you test mostly the products that have been raised here?
I imagine so. We test anything that comes in here. There's no good reason to not provide information to people in this case.
So if I found something, even if I came up from New York, could you test it?
Now,
is it legal for you to test something that I bring in? That's
a gray area. I don't know. The real answer is I will not stand in between you and your data. You have a sample here. I could send you away, or I could destroy the sample in-house and test it at the same time.
And so how long then have you been in operation?
We've been at this location and serving the patients since November 2013.
2013, wow. So in that time, what have you found? And you said you've tested sativa, and...
We've tested several hundred samples from about 50 different clients, different sources, maybe 30 or 40 different types of samples. So there are a lot of infused products as well as flower.
So you test the oils and the...
Anything that has cannabinoids in it. Our specialty is to extract the cannabinoids and test the potency, or the safety part as well. It would extract the part that is unsafe, the contaminant, and test for that, depending on what our clients want. So far, we've been mainly testing for cannabinoid profiles, which is the potency part, because there are no dispensaries, and dispensaries are the only ones who are required to test by the law for contaminants. In general, if a patient is growing their own marijuana, they know that they're not spraying it with pesticides, so they don't ask for that test.
So it's legal here for patients to grow their own?
It is, yeah. At least until dispensaries open. until they have a viable path. Yeah.
Are your doctors required to get education?
I don't know. I think that I do know that a lot of doctors are getting education. I don't know if they're required to.
It would seem like they would be interested in what you have to, the whole process that you go through.
Absolutely.
They should be aware of, so that they.
I am in close contact with about 10 doctors in this state who who recommend cannabis regularly, and we talk. They tell me what they would like to see from an analytical laboratory, and we make sure that our methods meet what they are asking us to do, both in potency, which is the next molecule that they think will help a certain condition, and in contaminants, which contaminants do they think are the scariest for their patients. For example, I know a clinical oncologist who tells me that her immune-compromised patients are susceptible to certain fungi and bacterial infections that we will be testing for. And she named specific ones for me. That's how we're designing our protocols, based on conversations with doctors. Now, CBD has its own medical merits, I'm sure. I don't know, I'm not a doctor, but a lot of folks that come in here are interested in CBD, not CBDA, and they want to know how to get CBD from their plant. So one way to do that is to heat CBDA. CBDA will decarboxylate with heat and release carbon dioxide, and what's left over is CBD.
So, and if you're boiling it, is that too high? Does that kill it?
No,
or is it, okay.
No, it's fine. That temperature is fine. There are a lot of, how do I phrase this? There's a lot of information out there that tries to explain exactly at what temperature and for how long to heat what kinds of samples.
Right.
And we've tried a few of them in-house, and some things work and some things don't work, and we're actually in the process of really figuring it out more exactly.
How the temperature affects.
At what temperature? So what we want and what our clients want, and what I've heard a lot of patients asking for, is a simple formula. Heat it at this temperature for this long.
Right.
Then there's no guesswork. The problem, I guess I should address here, is that if you overdo it, if you heat for too long or at too high a temperature, you're actually degrading THC to CBN. So if you heat for too long or at too high a temperature, you're reducing the amount of THC that you have, and you're converting it to cannabinol CBN, which is mildly sedative, puts you to sleep.
So the edibles, can you measure the dose in the edibles as
Yes.
easily as you can? Everything.
Not as easily. It's harder. It's harder because we validate our methods. We prove our extraction is good enough. Chemistry is always a competition between two things from everything that we're doing. And what we try to do is to take away the cannabinoids from wherever they are currently. So if somebody gives us a flower, we have to prove that we can take away all of the cannabinoids from that flower. And we've done that. We've validated our methods. And that's why we are accredited to ISO 17125. We do the same thing with all of the edibles. We make sure and prove that we can take all of the cannabinoids out of each edible before we release a report stating what the dose of that edible is. So it's harder. So the common thought out there is that sativas are energetic and indicas make you sleepy and tired and want to sit down for a while, couch lock. I'm not contesting those effects because so many people have reported them. There's what we're not seeing is a difference in THC or CBD between sativa and indica. So a lot of folks have taken the observation that sativas make you sleepy and indicas make you sleepy and sativas make you energetic, and they've extrapolated that observation to thinking that there's more CBD in indicas and more THC in sativas. And after testing a few hundred samples and looking at the data, we're not seeing that trend. We're not seeing that correlation. What's nice here is the QR code.
Oh,
No, really,
you
because
can scan that and
you can scan that and it'll take you to our website that has a dose calculator.
really.
Yep. For that specific product. There's an actual sample running right now in here. As a matter of fact, there are a whole bunch of samples in there. In this case, only 4, but sometimes it could be up to 90.
It can run them at the same time.
One at a time, but automatically, so we can leave. This is called an HPLC. It's high performance liquid chromatography. What it does is it separates all the cannabinoids from each other. Right in here, this column is what does that. Get a sample from you. The first thing I do is I weigh out the sample on our balance. It's actually calibrated each and every day. We make sure that it's working properly with these nifty $200 little weights that are, certified to be exactly, in this case, 200 milligrams. I don't think a human hand has ever touched this without a glove. I've never touched it without a glove because then that changes the weight. So this is where we extract our cannabinoids from the sample. We do it in a proprietary process where we have validated and proven that we do indeed get 100% of the cannabinoids out of our samples. This right here is set up mostly for the potency test, what's in this lab, although we do provide the aflatoxin screen in here, and we do a lot of the workup for our heavy metals screen that we drive over